So the first thing I wanted to talk about was this. Where is it? It's this tweet here by. Oh, it's taking a long time to load. So it's a tweet by Elon Levy, former former spokesperson for Israel. Oh, thank you so much, Wadara. I appreciate your gift description. Um, we're so close. 81% in 39 seconds. You can do it, guys. Thank you for that, Magic. So we have this tweet by Elon Levy that says like there's this Palestinian journalist who is receiving threats exactly like Anas al-Sharif. Of course, I think everyone here knows that he was executed by Israel alongside three other Al Jazeera journalists, and there's been this whole disgusting discourse about who gets to be um, um, you know uh, killed for being a journalist. Who gets to call themselves a journalist and who doesn't? Um, and so don't worry, guys. We're eight people here. It was a long shot, but I appreciate your efforts. Um, so this discourse was on the line of like uh, if I present evidence that says that you were recruited into Hamas in 2013, and then in 2017 you got into an injury that got you disabled, you can't see well and you can't hear well, but you receive a salary from Hamas, as so many people in Gaza do, because again, Hamas is the government, like the de facto government, then you're a valid target. And I feel that that is just not at all how it works. Like I saw this tweet by it's a thread, right? It was I think it was Andrew Fox who wrote a whole argument about how um, journalists, Palestinian journalists, actually participate in hostilities when they cover the Gaza conflict because they set up a narrative, and the narrative like contributes to the war effort. And all I can think of is like, what a stupid argument, because then that means that we could theoretically then start killing, all of these right-wing Zionist trolls that are online building up narratives for Israel. Of course, that's not how it works. Of course, the uh, journalist work, the work of a journalist, is not covered by the direct participation in hostilities um, concept. Like journalists are not targets. There's vast amounts of scholarship on this. The ICRC's direct participation in hostilities interpretive guide specifically says that the like informative duties like journalism isn't participating in hostilities because like it doesn't meet the threshold of harm and it's not direct harm, right? Like for direct participation in hostility, for something to be direct participation in hostilities, it has to be it has to meet a threshold of harm. It has to meet a what do you call it? Like it has to damage. It has to damage the other party, the other side, and its journalism just doesn't. And even if it did, it doesn't do it directly. There's no direct connected nexus, right? So it's a pretty dumb effort here to say that. I don't see how you meet that standard. Like to say that they're valid targets. But even if you could argue that um, a specific journalist was a target, in the case of Anas al-Sharif, not only is there not enough evidence, but also there are three other people that no one has offered any evidence that they were a target, and yet they were killed as well. So you can kill three people to get one with that weak of evidence. I just it just doesn't make sense. It feels like it is an escalation based on the fact that they will start to intensify their genocide, and when they intensify their genocide, they don't want enough press covering it. That's what it feels like. And so they need to start targeting journalists more and more. And for that they need to build a narrative, talking about building narratives. And the narrative that is being built here, the narrative that I'm looking at, that I'm seeing in in the narrative that I see that they are building slowly, steadily, um, is that they will target journalists out of a sense of like, but they are members of Hamas, right? They are members of Hamas. Um, and as you can see here from Elon Levy, he says, Al-Jafarawi is not a journalist. He works for Hamas regime TV. He is a Hamas content creator. Even assuming that that were the case, I have no idea, but even assuming that that is the case, a Hamas content creator does not directly participate in hostilities, and therefore is not a valid target, even if they work for Hamas. Even if they work for Hamas, right? It is a horrible thing to say, by Elon Levy, but it marks a change. What it feels like is that they're doing what they to journalists what they did to hospitals. It began like, how dare you say that we attack a hospital, and then it became, well, we attacked this hospital, but there was a reason, and then it became, we always attack hospitals, and it's always right. And then it became, there are no limits to the amount of hospitals we can destroy. We can destroy every single hospital in Gaza. It feels like that is the consent that is being generated here. So, for example, compare this reaction of like, oh, Anas al-Sharif has to be killed because he, in 2013, was recruited to Hamas because here's a shady Excel that we prepared. Okay, and like Saleh Jafarawi has to be killed because he's a quote-unquote Hamas content creator. Compare that to this. This is an article by um, this is an article by The Guardian on targeting standards for Palestinians. And there is this really important quote around here. Hold on, where is it? Where is the quote around here? Here. It says, asked about the Al-Aqsa network, that is the Hamas TV network, casualties, a senior IDF spokesperson told reporters in the Gaza Project Consortium that there was, quote, no difference between working for the media outlet and belonging to Hamas's armed wing. A sweeping statement legal experts described as alarming. Yes, this is stupid. This is ridiculous. This is like, if you work for the media, you don't have a continuous combat function, and if you don't have a continuous combat function, you are not a valid target. Simple as that. Right? They quote here Adil saying it is a shocking statement, a complete misunderstanding, or just a willful disregard for international law. Yes, it is a shocking statement. It just doesn't work that way. It is not, and so much does it not work that way that, like, even though, like, I remember there was another one, another claim here. Here, a person with knowledge of legal advice given to IDF commanders said journalists working for Hamas-affiliated media were seen to exist within a gray zone, and there was a problematic view among some in the IDF that whenever there's someone getting a salary ultimately from Hamas, they were considered to be a legitimate target. So this is, again, this is not how it works. So much so that the IDF issued a clarification after that report. This one here, IDF clarification regarding claims on targeting journalists. This is 25 June 2024. Right? In 25 June 2024, the IDF said, the articles have included statements attributed to an IDF spokesperson in French, Colonel Oliver Rafovitz, attributing to him sayings which do not distinguish between Hamas's political wing and military wings, and characterize Hamas's Al-Aqsa media network as part of Hamas's military apparatus. Such statements attributed to Colonel Rafovitz do not reflect official IDF policy in relation to the identification of terrorists and targeting procedures. Colonel Rafovitz erred as these comments mischaracterize IDF targeting policy, right? So look at the idea of trying to like distance themselves. How dare you suggest that we target journalists because they're journalists, right? It is to be clarified that the IDF does not see Hamas's media networks or journalists as such as members of Hamas military wing. Accordingly, IDF does not target journalists as such. IDF directives and protocols set clear guidelines on identification of specific individuals as members of the Hamas military wing or as persons that directly participate in hostilities and are therefore legitimate targets. So we start with random killings of journalists, and the idea of saying, how dare you suggest that we would target journalists as on purpose, like willfully, because they're journalists. Then we move on to Anas al-Sharif, where they say like, oh, we targeted him and we targeted 3 other people that we killed alongside him. We only have very flimsy evidence for Anas al-Sharif, but see, I was justified in killing Anas al-Sharif. And then yes, 3 other people died, and what can I do? That's war, you know, collateral damage. So killing a random low level at best Hamas quote-unquote operative means that you can kill 3 other people, 3 journalists? Really? That's proportionate? But anyway, the argument is that they had evidence that he was like in this case, yeah, in this case we did it, but he was a legitimate target, right? That's the logic. The next logical step, what's coming, the next thing that's coming is this, is what Ilan Levy is saying. He's not a journalist. He works for Hamas TV. So basically, this clarification is going to stop being valid. It will no longer be their policy. They will say, no, he works for Hamas. It's membership, right? It feels like that is what's coming, right? The IDF clarification will become moot, and what they will start doing is saying, just like with hospitals, what can we do? All the hospitals are military bases. What can we do? All the journalists are terrorists. And in the first hospital, how dare you suggest that we would bomb Al-Shifa hospital? Here's evidence that it was a Islamic Jihad rocket, and like here, let's obfuscate the discussion and really make a scandal to suggest that, oh, how dare you suggest that we would attack a hospital? Same, how dare you suggest that we would attack Anas al-Sharif? How dare you suggest that we would say we would attack a journalist for being a journalist? And then all of a sudden, little by little, we get to a point where, like, yeah, of course we attacked the hospitals. They're all Hamas. Yeah, of course we attacked the journalists. They're all Hamas. So this is what's coming, in my opinion. This is the next step. And another thing that I'm worried about, and I think we need to be very aware of, is now that Palestinian journalists are being executed in very blatant ways, as in they will start being executed as like just for being Palestinian and just for being journalists. Western news outlets are going to start literally running out of people that are running around with a camera in Gaza, and some have already started this trend of like shifting from journalists to Western doctors working in hospitals. Keep an eye out for accusations that Western doctors will start dying in attacks on hospitals or medical convoys or collateral damage, because there is an informational side to this, and I think it's important to be aware that the IDF is like this. So yeah, anything that helps quote unquote build a narrative, to quote Andrew Fox, is seen as negative, right? So we should be aware to see if these Western doctors also start dying, right? So yeah, I think this is an escalation in the genocide, in the way that the genocide is trying to be to be hidden. And so yeah, I think we should all keep our eyes very much open, because this is happening. This has happened before, and it is intensifying, and it will continue to happen. And they will start killing journalists. They will start killing doctors that tell stories. Like, the level of brazenness with which the IDF and Israel in general are acting at this point, openly basically planning a Madagascar plan and a Warsaw Ghetto in Gaza. This is what they're building. They're building the Gaza Ghetto, and they're building their Madagascar plan for Palestinians. It's that brazen, it's that ridiculous. They are engaging in Holocaust denial levels of atrocity denial by saying that an emaciated child is not really hungry because he has a pre-existing condition. It's so brazen that truth needs to be hidden. That's why they are letting quote unquote Western journalists, they will let Western journalists in, embedded with the IDF, so that they can control the narrative in ways that Palestinian journalists and Western doctors don't let them. So that's why I think the narrative with regards to killing journalists is changing. The narrative is changing from how dare you suggest that we would ever target a journalist to, well, we did target a journalist, but this time we had a good reason, to, well, of course we target all journalists. They're all Hamas. They are, to use Ilan Levy's disgusting claim, they are all Hamas content creators. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Like, I need Anna Kasparian to come and tell me, like, what she thinks, because like she's my new catharsis. I need her to come here and say disgusting, because this is a disgusting tweet.
Even confirmed it was
you people
Hamas.
disgust me.
Let me catch up with the chat. I guess this means that Magic says. I guess this means that any Israeli is a legitimate target then, since they all get drafted. I mean, I know what you're saying. Like, no, but that is what they say with regards to Palestinians, right? If you work, there's a document in they prepared this for Cast Lead in 2009, where they make the case that police officers in Gaza are valid military targets because they say that the police is embedded in the armed wing of Hamas. I mean, just imagine the level of brazenness. Like, no, no, no. Yeah, but anyway, that's the first topic I wanted to cover. This idea that I believe that the logic behind executing journalists is going to change, and I think we need to be aware that that is happening because it's happened before with hospitals. They're doing to journalists what they did to hospitals. So keep your eyes open, keep the pressure up, right?